got to see beyond that immediate problem
Mm-hmm.
and see that like the bigger problem is the fact that we could end pretty much all financial suffering if the billionaires of the world decided today
Mm-hmm.
they could end it. It'd be like
Yeah.
the snap of a finger. It would be nuts.
Exactly.
No one would be hungry or homeless ever again.
No,
But they're
that's like
keeping it for
the
themselves.
most obvious truth that seems like it's just something that we should all take into account right away. Like we should all consider the idea that we already at this point have the technology and the resources to feed and clothe and shelter everyone on the earth.
Yep.
But we're not doing it because people want it to keep it the same. Well, the majority of the people have been told that that's not possible.
Yeah.
And the majority of people believe that it's not possible. They don't think there's a way to go about it. And they think that even transitioning to something would be far too detrimental and have far too many negative effects.
It's the change. It's that transition.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what essentially has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is you need to tax the rich people so much. Like the whole taxing people have been convinced, people who make like $80,000 a year have been convinced that if their taxes go up, like, oh, well, their taxes on rich people, they're going after me. It's
Right.
like, you're not rich, you're just relatively richer than most people.
Right.
And the concept of taxing you more, like, you get taxed a lot for healthcare. You've never had to pay for healthcare, right? And if you were to tally up based on a U.S. system, the amount of healthcare you've gotten throughout your lifetime, it would in no way compare the amount of taxes you've paid for healthcare.
Oh, most definitely not.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the amount of taxes you've paid towards road construction, it might cover a kilometer of road.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to cover all the roads you drive on in a day.
Yeah.
So that's how, like, the point of taxes are you pay less and get more back.
Right.
So if you were taxed for your food, but you were guaranteed you'll always have whatever food you need.
Exactly. Yeah.
You were taxed for your house as well, but you were always guaranteed to have a warm house to go back to.
See, that's how the transition would work, is doing something like that.
So instead of the end of the day, at the end of the week, instead of getting a $600 paycheck, you get a $50 paycheck.
Yeah.
And people flip out. Whoa. You're like, but you didn't have to pay for your housing. Or, your $50 is for you to go and piss it away on something. Your food is paid for. Probably most of your entertainment is paid for. Everything could be paid for with the amount of money and wealth in our society for everybody. Yeah. But
so I remember you talking about before, like the last time we chatted, you were talking about these kinds of ideas, like, everyone pays for the roads, everyone pays for the healthcare, that these are considered socialist ideas.
Yeah.
So what do you, because I know you speak about the benefits of some communist ideas as well. So what do you see? I'm not educated on these subjects. Like, right? Okay. I have basic ideas of what they are, but I never looked really deeply into them. To me, they're just different isms, and the main point behind it all is that our main priority should be feeding, clothing, and sheltering everyone, and then we'll worry about other things on top of that. Yeah. So what is it that scares people away from socialism or communism?
I guess socialism is a softer form of socialism. The end game of socialism would be communism. Communism is a very more strict, I guess, form of government in which the utopian communism is at the very end of the day, you wouldn't even get money in your paycheck. You would just do and have whatever you needed.
So if you wanted food, you just go to the grocery store and grab it.
It would be whatever. Yeah, it's from each according to their means, to each according to their need.
Right.
So the guy who's more physically fit might end up working a bit more at the end of the day than the person who's weak and feeble, but they both have the exact same standard of living.
Okay.
Because that person is able, they have the means to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's where the people don't like the idea of communism. There's a bunch of movies and stuff about how it won't work out because this guy's going to end up having to work overtime because the lazy guy doesn't want to, type of thing, right? But I guess the main difference is socialism still kind of works within the system of economy we have now. Just it's more focused on taxing the richest people to pay for social programs for the poorest.
Okay.
But eventually, the end game would be that through those types of systems, the balance would even out. right now we're on a big old bell curve, not even like big exponential curve for the highest, most richest people and the poorest people, right?
Right.
But through a bunch of socialist programs and higher taxes, that would lessen and lessen. And over time, you get to a point where almost everybody is on an even playing field. And then that's communism.
So what, I know there are socialist and communist countries existing right now. So how, with those kinds of standards that everybody gets exactly what they need, how are rich and poor still created?
Yeah, well, most communist countries now are communist by name. So you think of like North Korea, they call themselves communist.
And that's a communist dictatorship.
And that's the thing. Almost every instance of communism almost has been a dictatorship.
Right.
So you've got North Korea, Soviet Union was a dictatorship. China is currently a dictatorship. Cuba, dictatorship.
Right.
There have been like down in Chile in the 70s, Salvador Allende was a democratically elected socialist president.
Okay.
And within like a year, he was murdered and deposed by an American-backed coup. Just a few weeks ago in Bolivia, his name is escaping me, but the president of Bolivia, he's been there for like 10 years, socialist, democratically elected socialist. He's not a dictator, didn't come to power through some revolution like in Soviet Union or something like, or North Korea. And only a couple of weeks ago, he was like arrested and kicked out of office by the military because of an American-backed coup.
Right.
Because those types of socialism work so well. If you look at the like standard of living in Bolivia before he was elected and after, within the last 10 years, he's pulled Bolivia out of poverty. He's created all these jobs. He's like turned it into a complete different country than what it was. And that's a threat to capitalist countries.
Yeah.
Because these like working proofs that like, look,
I see what
if
you
these
mean.
people come in and tax all the rich people who've been controlling the economy for decades,
right,
it does work out. And it does make things better for everybody. They don't, like that's so dangerous that they will literally back like revolutions and coups.
Gotcha.
It happens a lot in South America.
Yeah.
The Vietnam War was because communism is like, now it's more authoritarian communism, but like communism from China was leaking and pushing down into Vietnam, and the U.S. had all these interests and stuff there, so they went into this ridiculous like 10+ year war to stop it.
So this standard of living that they give you, like if they're ostensibly giving everyone what they need, then is it just that the people in power get to decide what you need, and it's just it's technically not enough, and it's not actually what you need? Like,
that's what you get in a more authoritarian dictatorship. The state decides that you only need one loaf of bread a week, type of thing. You only you only need to shampoo twice a week, right? Like that type of thing. Those happen when you try and like go too quickly into it.
Yeah.
You have to do very slow transition into this type of thing, where like shampoo, you can only shampoo twice a week in Soviet Russia, type of thing, right? Like that's probably because there were a bunch of private companies that made shampoo, and then Soviet Russia said, we're in charge of that now. We own all private businesses, and we'll determine how much is made and who makes it and where it goes. When you do that too quickly, you don't get a hold on like the supply and demand side of it. So you could take over the shampoo factories, but if you don't have anybody to work in the shampoo factory because they don't want to work for you now, or I don't know, a million different reasons why things could go wrong. If you do it all at once, things like that happen. So you'd have to do it really slowly. And there'd probably be a long time before like little commodities like shampoo and like chocolate bars, before that would be a government decided thing.
Right.
And it's probably not an ideal. Like I don't think any one type of government is perfect.
Right.
Same as, I guess I would apply that to religions too. You got to pull parts from all different things, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like a lot of the I guess you could say fear mongering around like socialism or communism is people just have this idea that we've seen that communism doesn't work. Like, look at this country, or look at that country. We've seen that socialism doesn't work. Look at that country. And then they dismiss it entirely and all their ideas, rather than pulling some ideas from each ism and finding the best way to do things.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like, well, it all comes down to the monetary system in general. If you're going to have a system where there's lack in general, then you're going to have people that find ways to capitalize on that. Yeah. Like, regardless if it's a capitalist society, you're going to find people that find ways to get more than others and have others have not. And when you have nots, when you have people that are living in scarcity, that's when you can exploit them and use them for your own doing. You can use them as pawns in your game, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like the only logical ideal is to move towards a non-monetary system, because money is just like this barrier between us actually having everything we need. Yeah. If you get rid of money, like we can, like I said, we can feed and clothe and shelter everyone with ease. We already make enough food to feed everyone in the world. It's just that the majority of that food goes to livestock to fatten them up. You know what I mean? True. There's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of things inherent in these systems that are based on monetary systems in general that keep us from actually progressing and finding a stable world economy.